Well, Christmas is over. New Year's Eve is tonight. And I've got a chance now through the holidays and the bad weather to do a little maintenance and make a few improvements around the house, I hope. And one of them is to put some old tin that I have that should pretty well match the looks of the rest of the shop right here on the end of this sort of woodshed machinery area. So I've got to do some work and change those blocks that were put up there years ago when my dad added this little shed onto the side of the shed that I had added onto the side of the shop. So I got to change those blocks, tie them down on the inside with some hurricane ties, and then put the old metal up on the outside, put some bird blocks up there, and a piece of gable end trim on that poor exposed fascia. We'll see how it goes. But it's going to go pretty good because Kenny's here supervising today.
So you've listened to me brag about Burke bars a lot if you've watched really almost any of my videos. And you've watched me use one quite a bit. But if you're still a skeptic about the value of these things, this little video clip right here darn well ought to convince you that you just got to have one or two of these things. Oh yeah, and don't forget a Sawzall either. This board is not pressure treated. In fact, it's just green Douglas fir. So I'm going to hold it up several inches above the dirt. But the main bottom board, or girt, is a pressure treated 2x10 that's left over from Cy Swan's deck project. My camera glitched out and did not record me putting this old tin in place. But you can see that I just tacked it up, and now I'm coming back and putting the bulk of the screws in, following a string line to keep them straight, particularly the rows that are anywhere near eye level.
So I've got two different kinds of outside corner trim. I've got gable end trim. Let's see if we can do this. Can you see that that's got a vertical face and then a side that reaches over the top of the corrugations and will fasten down against the low side of the corrugation? So that goes, this is gable end trim. Like I say, it goes over the roof and down onto the subfascia. And then the other thing that I have is outside corner, which comes back around and presses against the low side of the metal on both sides of a corner. So we're going to throw up some of that on this run. It's been exposed for years on the gable end. We're going to cover up these outside corners and heal up the far side of the barn shed addition also. So like I mentioned, this reaches over the top, screws down against the purlins. This lays up against the subfascia, and I'll just try to keep the screws spaced evenly here, and it'll be great. In fact, I think I'll use the spacing of the purlins as a way to keep the spacing about right on these face screws.
It always feels good to finally get to a chore you've been putting off for a long time. And especially because the outside of this shed has a direct impact on my wife's diligent efforts to make our place look presentable. And most of the effort I've spent on my shop has been on the inside, pretty much just to benefit me. my workflow. So it feels like finally doing the right thing to put a little tender, loving care on the outside of this old building. A carpenter's pencil, like I'm trying to use right here, is pretty much useless for marking on galvanized metal. Carry a black Sharpie or a permanent marker of some kind if you want to have a mark that you're actually going to be able to see.
Well, that's it. Salvaged a little bit of tin, bought $144 worth of trim pieces. Steel has just gone crazy. But galvanized is nice material, and over time I hope the patina will sort of catch up with this old stuff. Put a little bit of a facelift on the barn right where you drive up, and so that's always a plus. Nobody fell, no cuts, no bruises. And that, at the end of the day, is about as good an indicator of a successful construction project as anything else you want to point to. Thanks for watching Essential Craftsman. Keep up the good work.